Hi, this is JP from Data on the Spot. I'm just going to take a couple minutes to show you some of the neat things that you can do with clickers. And mostly in a presentation or a meeting, just the different types of questions you can ask, when an appropriate time to ask them is, and just some other ideas. So I'm going to use the questions themselves as the learning points. So let's go through here, look at some of the questions. I'll try and explain exactly the purpose of each of them. So anytime I do a presentation on the clicker technology, or anytime I'm consulting with somebody on how to integrate them, I always suggest that you start, if you have clickers in the room, you might as well start with some sort of knowledge gathering. So whether it be some questions to figure out what your audience knows about a particular subject before you start, or maybe it's just a general, let's get to know each other, geographically or by role or position. So the first question I've chosen here is, how long have you been part of this organization? This is a question that can be tailored obviously to how long the organization has been around, but it's just really one example of a type of getting to know you question. So like I mentioned before, it could be, which part of the city are you coming from? North, east, south, or west? Or it could be which role do you represent? Maybe you have different stakeholders in the room. So this has a dual purpose, but first of all, it's just to get an idea of, hey, who's here today? So after I've collected the votes, you can see that 32 responses came in as I was talking. When I'm ready to see the results, I just click on the screen and it gives me a percentage breakdown on what everybody said. So you can see the biggest audience here is the 2 to 5 years, but there's also a big group in the 20+ years. And so even as a facilitator, you could suggest to your audience, you can see there's a lot of experience in the room. For those of you in the 16 or 22% that are new to the organization, we'd encourage you to engage your other participants, because there's a lot of wisdom in the room, or you could learn a lot from it. So this is a question that we can ask, we get a little feedback from the audience, and that we can maybe say something relevant about it, or direct our understanding a little bit further. Another type of question that we talk about often is just a general question about how excited are people to be in the audience today. And this could be, maybe it's more relevant if it's one of those quarterly meetings where all the salespeople have to come to and they're mandated to get there. It might not be a bad idea to find out the level of interest or excitement in the room. This particular question shows us a few different things. One of them is that we can have images as the answer options. So typically when you see clickers used, the answers are all in words. This is just showing you that you can have some fun with some imagery if you want. The other thing I want to point out, and I've polled the audience here, 32 responses. I'm going to click on the screen to look at the results. The other thing that's important to point out whenever we use clickers is that when we ask the audience a question, it never shows on the screen in public who said what. So in this example, you can see 28% of my simulated audience indicated that they would like to be woken up when the presentation is over. Obviously, if you're in a big audience and you went through this question by a show of hands, you probably have a lot less than 28% of the people telling you to wake you up when it's over. So that's anonymity, and it's one of the things that are pre-programmed into all clickers. No matter which clicker set you're using, the main concept is that it provides the audience with anonymity on the screen, so you get a more candid or honest response. Let's look a little bit more at a couple more questions, all in the vein of asking questions before you start something. This particular question is one that's relevant to me when I'm presenting the concept of clickers, because if I haven't met all of the people I'm presenting to, I have no idea what their level of prior knowledge is on the subject. And so this is a really easy way of getting to know, what do you know about what I'm going to talk about for the next 2 hours or hour, or in this case, 3 minutes. So again, we can ask this level of knowledge. If people are uncomfortable or think that they should know more, they're still going to be honest with this question, because nobody will know what you said when you answer it. So here's my question. I'm going to take a look at the responses, and I can see that 22% of the audience is new to it, and then everybody else seems to have some experience. So if this was a real response, I may skim over some of the basics of clickers, knowing that only 22% of my audience is brand new. Everybody else has had some experience. So when I'm explaining the concept of a clicker, I can be fairly quick, knowing that the majority of the audience had used the technology. This type of question is also neat because we can always go back and revisit these type of responses. So everything I've shown you so far have been questions, at the beginning, which in educational speak would be, a pre-assessment question or a diagnostic assessment question, anything that has to do with asking questions before you present something. But one of the neat features of this particular clicker software is that we can revisit a question at the end of a session. So if I'm just going to jump here to the end of my my presentation, and I may ask the same question that I asked at the beginning of the presentation. So having sat through my presentation for X amount of time, how now would you rate your level of experience with a clicker? So I get my 32 responses. I click on the screen. I see some changes here. Actually, still 22% is new, keeping in mind it's simulated data, but I just want to show you how this looks. The next slide is actually going to be a graphical comparison between how we answered the question the first time on the first slide and how we answered the question the second time. This was, for my particular question, was what's your level of experience with a clicker, but you could make it something like, how comfortable are you with this subject? And you get some honest feedback on how comfortable people are. You go through a 40-minute presentation, and at the end you say, okay, having sat through my presentation, now how comfortable are you with this topic? And then you could generate this slide, which would show some movement or some improvement in understanding or comfort on that particular subject. That's all I'm going to go through right now. We have quite a few other videos lined up. We're trying to keep them in small little segments. So this is kind of our pre-assessment questions and questions that you might deliver at the beginning. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel, and we're going to show some more how we can use clickers for strategic voting, for actual interactive learning and checking for understanding, as well as paperless evaluations. So thanks a lot for your time, and I hope this was worthwhile.